Imagine this. You're just trying to get home to your family, carrying a tea, trying to open up the front door, and suddenly you're ambushed from behind by two armed robbers. One jams a firearm into your back. You turn around, you're facing him and the gun. It's Saturday night at 7:30. This is not an imagination game. This is all too real for one local LA homeowner who bravely fought back. Guys, my name's Tom Grieve, former state prosecutor, criminal defense attorney. I'm going to be breaking this down, as well as some statistics and studies that talk about whether or not you should resist an armed attacker, as well as what kind of guns are the bad guys carrying. Do they even work? So let's get into it. Wow, so this is crazy stuff. He was just concerned about getting home when he got cornered from behind. Let's watch in slow motion what happened when the bad guy approached. But before we do, guys, there's a super secret giveaway going on right now. It's completely free. I've met any number of people over the years who have won these. I can't tell you what it is because the YouTube algorithm won't like it, but it's something that you carry. It's something the LA homeowner used in this case. It's something that you often need a permit for. You shouldn't, but you sometimes do. Check it out. Free giveaway going on right now, pinned in the comment field below, as well as in the description box. Back to the video. So let's check this out in slow motion. Notice what the bad guy does. He grabs the homeowner's left hand. So the homeowner's carrying his tea in his right hand, and the bad guy grabs the homeowner's left hand to prevent the homeowner from going for any kind of weapon or using it to defend himself. The homeowner, in that split second, saw violence and chose resistance. Thankfully, he came out on top. Now, I want you to pay attention to the homeowner's grip on his firearm. First, you will not see that grip with his left hand, basically just trying to figure out what the heck it's going to do. And the thumb's bouncing all over the place as he's firing 4 shots in the video at the bad guys. Right. You're not going to see that taught in any class. Also, I want you to check out what happens as he's spinning around. What's happening to that cup of tea? See how he goes to try to throw that against his attacker? And what happens to his right hand? It gets covered in liquid. It gets covered in tea, meaning that he is drawing a firearm from his concealed position. It looks like possibly appendix carry with a soaked hand after he just fought off a bad guy with his left hand. Folks, this is real-world defensive gun use. This is not you are rested on a lit range with dry hands using a perfect isosceles or weaver stance against a stationary target who doesn't shoot or fight back. This is you're tired, distracted by something else, surprised by a pistol jammed into your back from behind, and you're playing catch-up in a moment's decision to save your life. This is exactly why you need to be sure to incorporate safe one-handed firearm shooting, as well as safe practice drawing with an unloaded firearm. Absolutely essential that you master these skills. Just as this gentleman, perhaps he did, perhaps he didn't. I don't know what he practices or doesn't. But one thing's for sure, he was not going to let these armed thugs get through the door to his children on the other side. Now look at this. Notice how the bad guy flees before the firearm comes into play. Now, this matches both what I see in real world as an ex-state prosecutor and criminal defense attorney at a firm where we have at any point in time probably between about 4 to 15 defensive gun uses, as well as what statistics say what actually happens out there when good guys fight back and resist. But I, of course, just have to pause for the fact that, is this guy going to be facing any kind of trouble? After all, from the video, an aggressive prosecutor could try to make the claim, and no, I'm not saying this is the moral claim, I'm saying this is the aggressive prosecutor claim, that look, this man drew a firearm and took 4 shots at fleeing attackers. But as you can see from this other video showing the outside of his home, the bad guys are actually also shooting as they are withdrawing. So the threat is far from over, even though the bad guys retreated. Remember, until the cops are there, the situation is not over. Remember that. But what do some statistics have to say about this? So according to the data in a Department of Justice National Crime Victimization Survey, the probability of serious injury during an attack is 2.5 times higher for women. We'll talk about men in a moment, but for women who offer no resistance to their attacker compared to women who do resist with a firearm. So again, you're 2.5 times higher if you're a woman to be injured, seriously injured by an attacker if you offer no resistance than if you resist with a firearm. If we compare that to women who do resist but without a gun, the women who resist with a firearm are about 4 times more likely to not be seriously injured by an attacker compared to those who do resist but without a firearm. This, of course, goes back to the old saying that God created man, Sam Colt made them all equal. A firearm is a force equalizer for people who may be weaker, slower, or suffer from a disability, and that disability includes being attacked from behind when you're just trying to get into your home, outnumbered by attackers. Now, how do some of these statistics look for men? Well, largely the same, but with a tighter dispersion between resisting with and without a firearm. Men who behave like sheep and go along with their attackers without offering resistance are 1.5 times more likely to be seriously injured compared to those who offer resistance by way of a firearm. You're 1.5 times more likely if you comply with your attacker than if you do what this homeowner did and produce a firearm. The same correlation emerges when we look at what happens when men resist without a gun compared to when they resist with a gun. Men who resist without a gun are about 1.5 times more likely to be seriously injured compared to if they had a gun. Now, another notable study conducted by, of course, famed firearms researcher John Lott found that approximately 98% of the time when someone produces a firearm, and we're not even talking about firing it, we're simply talking about the mere production or display of that firearm, it actually triggered and resulting in the bad guy giving up, running away, and more or less ending the encounter favorably, one way, shape, or form. I can also anecdotally tell you that I've seen other studies when good guys produce firearms to resist that about 92% of the time, the good guy does not even have to discharge the firearm. The confrontation is over, the bad guy runs away. And this makes sense when we consider that quite often, frankly, the bad guy guns do not work. I'm gonna talk about more of that in just a moment, but guys, if you made it this far in the video, be sure to hit that like button. If you just found us browsing through, be sure to subscribe to more future content like this and a whole lot else. At the very end, we do our very famous quote of the day. And don't forget about the pinned comment with the free giveaway. Again, this is very real. I've had multiple people come up to me at conferences and so forth saying, I've won this. This is real, very real. So one study from 1990 estimated that 15% of armed robbers used toy guns, such as BB guns and air guns, during their crimes. Likewise, even if the firearms carried actually do turn out to be real, my anecdotal, or as the Gen Zers are saying today, my lived experience dealing with these cases and cops is that a fair portion of the time, these firearms are frankly not operable. I can point to one informal resource on this, who's a cop who actually looked at the last batch of firearms that his department seized during investigations of crime. They found that of the 85 firearms taken, 9 were completely broken, making up approximately 10% of the firearms, while 17 of the 85, or about 20% of the firearms, were semi-operable at best due to suffering from excessive malfunctions, lack of proper magazines, in other words, lack of matching magazines to that particular firearm, or internal parts breakage that seriously affected their ability to reliably function. When we say reliably function, we're talking about jamming perhaps 1 out of 3 times or more. This combines to little more than 30% of crime guns actually being used in the street having serious problems with them. Additionally, according to the same informal source, about 28% of the firearms were completely unloaded, and about 2% of them being loaded with incorrect caliber ammunition. I have heard many times from people from some pretty rough neighborhoods who either lived there, worked there in whatever capacity in major metropolitan areas, that criminals often scrape together cash to buy bullets, onesies, twosies, threesies, loosies at a time. So again, hopefully you're getting something out of that. Hopefully that also helps to explain briefly to the uninitiated how things actually work. So let's add this up and put it in English. About 41% of the firearms seized were non-functional due to parts breakage or being unloaded. Only about 27% of the loaded handguns had proper quality hollow point ammunition, like what law enforcement or responsible citizens may carry to defend themselves against those two-leg threats. Now, when you keep all this in mind, it suddenly becomes emphatically clear why another national study found that victims in non-fatal attacks suffered 3% gunshot wound rate, meaning that only 3% of survivors of non-fatal attacks from an assailant with a firearm were actually wounded, like our LA homeowner here who does not appear to be wounded. And that is not a small data set of people that we're talking about. In one 12-month period alone, measured by a study linked in the description box below, there were some 57,000 non-fatal gunshot wounds treated in emergency departments from around the country that were linked to assaults, not suicide attempts, not negligent discharges, assaults. Maybe those statistics cited by the Center for Disease Control and numerous other studies that concluded that there are between 500,000 and 3 million defensive gun uses per year start to look a lot more plausible in the context of those numbers. 3% of people suffer non-fatal gunshot wounds, 57,000 non-fatal gunshot wounds treated in emergency rooms linked to assaults. That's a lot of defensive gun uses happening out there. Be sure to carry, be sure to stay safe, be sure to check out that link in the description box below and the comment below so you get your free chance to win something. Guys, our quote of the day comes from noted Roman thinker Seneca. He who is brave is free. I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.